Hello, and this is DJ Taya, live at Gencon, interviewing And Sewing is Half the Battle, a local costuming company. So, can you tell me a little bit about yourselves? Kind of, who does what,
Wow.
things like that.
It's a joint effort. It is. We have an assembly line, actually.
I've seen a couple pictures on the Facebook of, I think one person was sitting on top of leather or something like that.
That would
That
be
was
Laura.
me.
Yes.
That was me. Yeah.
Yes. Well, we started costuming because we were fans and we wanted to dress up to go to conventions, and we are still fans who love to go to conventions, and that's pretty much what we do. We just do it at a
Now
lot
we just
crazier
dress up
level.
in more and more ridiculous things.
Yes, and each of us, none of us has any formal training in anything that we do. We all learned through trial and error. When we started, my first costume I made was literally held together with duct tape and safety pins because I didn't know how to sew.
Duct tape's good, though.
Duct tape is good. Safety pins, and it worked. The costume held together for the con. But since then, we've gotten into all different types of craftsmanship and prop making and mold making. We're actually teaching a lot of workshops this week over different aspects of costuming.
Nice. What happens to actually one of the favorite costumes you've gotten to do so far?
Oh gosh.
It's so hard to pick a favorite.
Favorite is one of those. It's like I have different favorites for different reasons. Like sheer ridiculous amounts of oh my gosh, I can't believe we pulled that off would probably be the Scarlet Pimpernel combo and the Sainkoku group. Both of those were just technically really.
Yes, the Scarlet Pimpernel costumes was a set of recreations of the Takarazuka Review production of the Scarlet Pimpernel. It's a very big theater like Broadway in Japan. It's an all-female theater troupe. And we recreated these stage versions of 18th century court costumes and involved a fully silk ball gown with hand embroidery and hand beading, and the thing was 5 feet wide, and I made all my own steel boning and everything. And
We
made
spent
the
2
panties.
years collecting materials for the dress.
Yes, and it looks fabulous, and I love that costume. I didn't love it while I was working on it, but I love it now.
We love that it's done. That's what we love.
Yes, and the Sainkoku costume is also made with tons of historical research. It's all silk, it's all hand-dyed, it's all tons and tons of work, which a lot of work went into those costumes, and I think the more we learn going into a costume and working on it, the better we feel about it, because we feel like we've accomplished something, we've leveled up. And we learned so much doing those two costume sets about new techniques and new materials.
But then, like, there's other favorites for. I mean, those were really fun. I'm so glad we did them. But they're not necessarily the most fun to wear or the most fun just to like hang out in because you can't. I mean, they're silk. You can't just hang out in them. They're not convenient for that. So there's really fun ones like.
I enjoy being in character as certain characters,
Yes.
so there are a couple of costumes that they're not, some of them are just found item costumes I made out of my closet, and they're not particularly complex, but I love being in character, like Kaito Kid from Magic Kaito and Detective Conan is a thief. He runs around insulting people, stealing their stuff, and basically being a cocky jerk, and he's so much fun.
She just gets to be annoying all day. So
Yes, and he's showy and arrogant, and it's really fun to play that character. So even though the costume's not that fancy, I love being in character because he's a great character to roleplay. Yeah.
Well, how about physically impossible costumes? Have you ever tried to do those?
Yes.
all the time.
I mean, you see the video game characters with like the itty bitty tops that it's not physically possible.
Right.
Well, we don't tend to do a lot of things that are that require body mechanics that defy gravity. I mean, if you've got a female gaming character with a 56-inch bust, we're not working on those costumes.
I'm not building a jiggle algorithm for us.
No. But we do. Probably our weirdest, most technically insane costume we did was Full Throttle Pain from Final Fantasy X2, which involved it had a 14-foot wide puppetry blade system and spinning motorized propeller blades over her head, and she was on 8-inch platform heels.
Yes.
And the costume was, I don't even know how much it weighed. It was a huge mecha costume, and it was all motorized and puppetry, so everything moved.
Yeah.
Wow, that seems like it'd be hard to get in and out of the doors with that.
It was
yeah.
insane.
We had to
Like,
assemble
I
it
had-
on site backstage.
Yeah, it always came in pieces. Actually, the entire thing, one of the weird factoid about that costume, nobody ever saw all of it because each time it went on stage, something didn't get to make it onto the stage.
Something broke or something was dismantled, or we had to make some modifications to get it on the stage because it was too wide.
Yes.
So even though we competed in that costume in a couple of places and exhibited it several places, it never made it on stage in one piece.
Well, besides costuming, it sounds like you guys actually like to play games too.
Yes.
What different platforms and things like that do you play on?
We have a joke that Laura's a poser gamer because she plays about one video game every 3 years, 4 years, something.
I can talk all the talk, but I spend very little time actually gaming with video games. What I mentioned I was dressed as inspired by my character that I'll be playing later today is my Pathfinder Society character. So I do that a lot more, but video games I'm a bit
so
of a
you're
poser.
more the tabletop type gamer.
Yeah.
We have a regular Pathfinder group. We meet about once a month, or every 3 to 5 weeks, depending on people's schedules. So we do play Pathfinder Society. We play occasional fun games, like we like playing what we call Toon D&D, which the rest of our group is actually running a game right now as we speak, which is why they're not here. And it is playing the old D&D version 1,
Classic
the ancient adventures, using the rules of the role-playing game Toon, which is based on cartoons like Warner Brothers. And it is lots and lots of fun. It is very much not serious and over the top. And so we have game parties where we invite people and we play ridiculous games like that as well, in addition to our Pathfinder games. I also do quite a bit of, well, I won't say quite a bit, as my schedule permits, which isn't actually that much. I love to play video games as well. I'm a big fan of, Uncharted and Prince of Persia and all the adventure games.
Costume.
I do. I cosplay Nathan Drake.
Pretty convincingly,
and I'm working on a Farah from Prince of Persia. I like to play mostly PS3 games. I have several consoles, but PS3 is the one I get the most use out of.
I actually get the most use out of my PS3 too, so my PS3 and my computer, that's about it. So you say there's more members of your team though, they're playing a different game, so what do they actually came dressed as today, and what do they do?
The remaining third of And Sewing is Half the Battle. His name is Mark, and he's co-GMing the Toon D&D session that's running right now. And Mark is probably the most gamer.
Absolutely.
No, probably.
He was a gamer before he was anything else. He grew up playing games with his parents, and his parents actually, they live in Florida. They came all the way up to Indiana for Gencon specifically. So he comes from a gamer family, which we didn't. So he was indoctrinated at an early age, and he was a good little geek. He grew up watching classic Doctor Who and all the old geeky things. Just naturally born that way. But he does. He GMs a lot of games. He plays a lot of different games. He's in 4 or 5 different gaming groups, I think, and plays a lot of video games as well. So we don't even pretend to be half the gamer he is. He's much more.
So let me guess, he's like the gaming side, and you guys are the more crafty side.
Well, we all do everything, but we do it to different degrees. So I have an art degree. I do a lot more with the creative thinking side of things, whereas he does programming, so he's a little more left-brained. So when it comes time to design the insane physics-defying patterns to make your costume, I do better with the pattern design things because I'm conditioned to think that way. Whereas he does a lot more of the, okay, we need these measurements laid out in this direction, can you work out how this goes? And he'll do the left-brain side of it. So it's a good mix because we all have our tasks.
Well, how long have you guys actually been going to conventions in costume?
2002.
2002 is when we officially started.
Yeah,
so.
that was my first fandom kind of con.
I had attended some conventions before that, but I hadn't gone in costume. So I did, Star Wars Celebration back the first one when it was here, and some others. But the first ones we went to in costume as a group was in 2002. So 11 years.
Oh, and do you primarily go to Gen Con, or are there other conventions you like to go in costume?
We do all the cons.
We do a lot of cons. I actually, I work for a company that puts on conventions as well, so I do staffing at a lot of cons. I do between 10 and 12 cons a year, I'd say.
Wow, you're actually really busy.
We've cut back a little bit.
Yeah, this year we haven't done near as many. Last year I did 10. This year we've probably done 6, 7.
I don't know.
Something, I don't
Yeah.
know. I lose count. But I do a lot because we don't just attend them as attendees. We run panels and workshops. We staff a lot of them. Sometimes we do craftsmanship judging for Masquerade. So we have a lot of different roles that we'll play. And a lot of, especially in the Midwest, there are a lot of smaller conventions that just maybe have, 1,000 people or 2,000 people, and they're all volunteer based. So we do a lot of helping out at those events.
All right. Actually, they're supposed to be having a costume contest here at Gen Con, I heard. Will you guys be doing the judging or anything like that?
No, we're in it.
We're in it. Yes.
In it to try and win it.
We'll see what happens.
Right. It's the Gen Con costume contest is always really fun because they divide things up It's run a little bit differently than some other conventions, and they divide it up by category, by theme. So, all the movie characters will be competing together. All the comic characters will be competing against each other. And except for us, and we're in the weird category called professional. Even though we're not professionals,
If you
that's where
win,
we get to be.
if you win, they automatically put you in professional the next year, and we won, so we are stuck in professional for life. But it's interesting because you get a wide range in the professional division where we compete. You get a wide range of sources and a wide range of costumers with different focuses. So some people have amazingly elaborate fabric costumes. Some people come in with video game replicas that are huge suits of armor or animals. A lot of Taurans from World of Warcraft and other game sources. And it's really neat to see those levels of craftsmanship up close and be backstage with them and examining each other's costumes. Because we're all costume nerds at heart. We all want to look at it.
Well, it sounds like it's actually a lot of fun.
It is.
Any tips and tricks for people that actually want to start making their own costumes more?
Don't psych yourselves out.
Don't ever look at a costume and say, oh, that's way beyond my skill level. I can never do that. Because
I mean, yes, it probably is, but you know what? You'll level up while you're doing it. And let me tell you, the number of costumes we have made and then made again
Remade.
later when we knew better what we were doing. So
the second costume set we ever did was way beyond our skill level. It was this sort of psychedelic ball gown set, these opera costumes
with
from this
floating
show.
anti-grav
Yeah,
bits.
it was. I looked at it and went, "Oh, that'd be really fun to wear." This was back when I didn't know how to
outer
sew.
space were on acid is really how this and those weren't our designs. Those were what it was supposed to look like. It was so much fun to do, and then 5 years later we're like, okay, now we're going to make them again properly.
But I learned so much doing it the first time. And the first time I was trying to hot glue my fabric together. I didn't know anything about sewing. But because I learned how things went together and I started learning the basics of patterning things because I had to modify the dress I was using, that's what helped me roll into my next set of costumes. So I used those skills and I attempted something else. And then I used those skills and I attempted, and you grow and learn as you continue making costumes. So I encourage anybody who wants to get started with costuming, start with what's in your closet, what's at Goodwill, what can you modify and cobble together, and then work upward to just above your comfort zone. You know, if it's just wearing clothes you already own, great, that's a good place to start. Next costume, challenge yourself a little bit. Do something that's a little bit outside of that comfort zone, because that's how you learn, that's how you grow.
And you keep mentioning that costuming is kind of like you level up. So it's basically a game in itself.
It totally is.
It is.
You earn XP
You
when
acquire
you
new
make it.
skills, yes.
Yes.
And we joke about that all the time. If we learn a new skill or technique, you know, we earn bonus points and we earn XP for that. But it is absolutely, you know, role-playing games are based on real life in terms of you do things, you acquire experience, you acquire new skills, and then you use those skills. That's true of anything you attempt, whether it's learning to be a photographer or learning to write a book or learning to play a new game. Any of those things, it's the same process. And costuming is no different. So the more you do, the more you learn, and the better you get at it.
Well, thank you very much for actually sitting down with me and letting me ask you questions and ogle your costumes. I think I will follow you to wherever you guys are doing the Toon D&D, get a couple pictures with, you know, all three of you.
Okay.
And
All right. Okay.
hopefully our listeners will enjoy the pictures as much as I'm enjoying sitting here talking to you.
All right, thank you.
Well, thank you.